Let's go. He's back. Alex Rider is back. Archangel. He says it's back, and this time there are no limits. Well, Anthony Horowitz. Usually I've been reading these books, and I always go, doesn't feel like there's many limits. All the stories are always pretty crazy, pretty action packed. Again, when I was a kid and I was reading this stuff, I was like, man, this is crazy. This is wild. Does this actually happen? Maybe it does. Maybe it does happen that, spies out there and there's a handful of individuals who like go through these sort of crazy things. But again, Alex Rider is a 14-year-old boy going through insane actions and activities and trying to save the world. I think, again, this is like what, the sixth book in the series. That's correct, sixth book. This particular one was written in 2005. And in the span of the story is almost, he's still 14 years old. So it's within a year and he saved the world, six times over if you include this particular book. So the man's been doing well. The boy's been doing really well. Again, the Anthony Horowitz series is pretty straightforward, aka it's Alex Rider is a teen spy who doesn't really want to be a spy. But in this particular book, you start to see himself just actually including himself, like he wants to do things. The book begins with him being at the hospital off the back of the previous book, Scorpia, and, got stung, he got shot at. Fortunately, he stepped off a curb, didn't get killed, thank goodness, but it was a pretty crazy ending to the last book. And so in this one, you see him, he's alive, he's at a hospital, he's recovering, he should be relaxing, he should be, but all of a sudden, someone's coming in to take the boy next door, who he's not even a friend with, he just kind of like knows, and all of a sudden throws himself back into the painful world of bad guys doing bad things. He goes and saves this particular kid. The dad ends up sort of going like, "Oh my god, thank you very much." Bring him into his world, just trying to give him a bit of a holiday, give him a break, and that then begins the pace where I believe at some point they fly into New York, and the CIA pull Alex Rider aside to go, "Hey, by the way, you're hanging out with a super rich billionaire who's trying to thank you, but actually." He's actually trying to destroy the world, or more specifically, he's trying to destroy his space station and blow up Washington because he doesn't want everyone to follow up the fact that he became a billionaire by being a really, really bad guy. So, that particular storyline is a la most of the storylines of Alex Rider or Anthony Horowitz puts together. But the one fantastic thing, and you might be able to tell by the way that the subtitle is written, or at least the back of it as well, the little like blurb of it, um, Alex Rider ends up in space, in actual space. And that's probably part of the philosophical thought that I thought about in this particular book is, again, trying to go broader than just the youth fiction idea behind it, is Alex Rider never prepped to be a astronaut, right? He never prepped to go to space. He never prepped to be doing, all these wonderful and crazy things. But it was his relentless effort, maybe, partly recklessness, partly just the going and doing something, probably immaterial of how risky or how dangerous it particularly was. Again, I'm going by the story here. Was it because he did all these adventures with Uncle Ian Ryder before he actually passed away? Because he was going and doing all these adventures when he was younger. And so did he have a propensity to be better at adventuring and being active and getting out there and doing things? Maybe. But I can tell you, I was reading this particular book in Archangel, and when he was, strapping himself in for going into outer space, and Anthony Horowitz does a good job of just making it quite real in that Alex wasn't just like, "Okay, cool, I'm gonna strap in, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna save the world." No, he was like, "Fuck this, like, I don't wanna do this, man. Like, shit, can't something else do it? Can't we do it some other particular way?" And always ends up being like, "No." And Anthony does a very good job in that, a general 14-year-old, which Alex is exceptional in a, capability, maybe physical perspective, probably mental as well, but he's also a kid still, a teenager, and generally a teenager that doesn't wanna go and do super risky things that, might endanger him. Uh, you know, if you hear that out, there's very, very few people, even experienced people, probably experienced, older individuals, wiser individuals who would be like, "Yes, I'm gonna do this." Again, he's called out in previous book as well. It's not like Alex is patriotic either. He's largely, done this either because other people who he cares about are gonna be hurt, or he's being manipulated to go and do certain things. But that crucial point around going and doing things almost in a recklessness, but recklessness, but also in a reflective way of you kinda have to just go and do it either because you're forced to do it, right? And again, moving away from this fictional story, there's areas in my life where I go, there's reasons why I've got to go and do things, and they're not as risky, obviously, as what is portrayed in the book, but you got to put some risk factor into things so that you can achieve a certain level of success, a certain level of effort, of maybe satisfaction, and without any risk, without any action moving forward towards it, you're just not going to get them. Nah, not at all. The other interesting thing that I'd probably call out as a story is that in this book, Alex goes head to head with the billionaire on a go-karting race. And I believe that Alex ends up winning that race by jumping over some of the tires and going over the top and actually winning the race. And when I read that, I was like, wow, that sounds pretty crazy. Now, I'd never go-karted before, and I recently went go-karting. And I can tell you, personally, firsthand, this might not be in everyone's, how everyone maybe reacts to it. I reacted so terribly from go-karting, and I banged around all over the place. I was hitting the tires, I was hitting other people, bumping around, and my body just did not take it, right? My whole body didn't take it. I was bruised, battered, and sick. I was sick for 2 days from like motion sickness or something else from all of this. If anything goes to show, given the equivalent, racing that happened in this particular book, Alex Rider at 14 years old is still way more of a dominant individual and hardened individual than I am in my old age, more than double his age. Again, Anthony Horowitz, the book that he put together for Archangel was an awesome read. One in comparison again to all of the previous books. It begins strongly. It keeps with like quite action packed. It did get a little tiny bit slow through the middle period until they kind of got into the island and got the next pieces of going up into outer space. That was pretty cool. So yeah, not all of the books do that. This one did. One of the things I will call out as a little bit different that I hadn't seen in all the previous books is that Anthony Horowitz starts like adding a lot of acknowledgements towards the end of the books as well, and just gives a little bit of an insight around a lot of the details in the actual book came from asking individuals. So I'll give you an example. The last chapters couldn't have been written without Professor George Fraser, director of the University of Leicester Space Research Centre, and Derek Pullen at the University of Leicester's Research Office. Anyone with interest in space should make a beeline for the centre, etc., etc., etc. So, he goes and gives a couple of credits to the individuals who we went to have conversations about for him to be able to put the right detail and the reality to the book that he was putting. So even though it is fiction, he was going the extra length to try and put some reality basis to that. I remember once again, when I read that when I was young, whatever age it would have been when I was reading this, I remember going like, wow, even more I found that impressive because whatever I was reading and at the time, like almost like memorizing, right? I've read these books easily 5 or 6 times. I went, oh, this is cool. And also it's kind of partly true in like the detail that sits behind it. Maybe not so the storyline. In any case, Anthony Horowitz, Archangel, love the book, love the series. Going through it slowly but surely. For now, I'm going to leave it there. Me Immortalize. I hope you're well. One.